Today we are celebrating Govardhana Puja. I will speak for some time, and then Srila Prabhupada will bless us with Giriraj Maharaj to speak about Giriraj Maharaj. This incredible pastime, which is described by Sri Shukadev Goswami in Srimad Bhagavatam, or Mahavishnu. Simply by a single glance, he activates the entire cosmic manifestation. He impregnates within the Mahatattva of material nature unlimited jivas, or living entities. He activates through his glance the power of time, which sets the three modes of material nature in action. And the whole process of creation, maintenance, and destruction, it's all happening by the power of one little glance. In this Govardhan Lila, Krishna, he wanted to keep his promise. It is Krishna's eternal promise. He restates it in Bhagavad Gita, Konteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. That I will always protect my devotee. And in this particular Leela, Krishna's protecting so many devotees in very different ways. He's protecting Indra from his own false pride. Where there is false pride or ahankar, the will to serve with devotion, bhakti, is crippled. It is most powerful enemy to true devotional service, false pride. Indra is actually a devotee. Sometimes you may laugh at him because he makes mistakes. But he's such a great devotee that Krishna utilizes him to make these mistakes. And he's repeatedly within the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna takes very, very powerful people when he wants to teach a lesson to the world, in both positive and negative ways. Krishna wanted to protect Indra from his false pride because it was impeding his whole purpose in life. At the same time, he protected all the Brajvasis by giving them an experience that they all yearned for. For 7 days and 7 nights, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan were with Krishna 24 hours a day. It was a festival like no other festivals. At the same time, Krishna wanted to teach that my devotees should know that I am the cause of all causes, the source of all incarnations. They should not be distracted by the worship of devatas. Now in Vrindavan we see there are places where devatas are worshipped, but they're worshipped for developing love for Krishna, for the purpose of enhancing our Krishna consciousness, not a diversion away. The story begins on this day. It's being celebrated with so many firecrackers. The monkeys dancing on the roof is such a pleasing sound. Krishna, in the village of Vrindavan, he happened to see that Nanda Maharaj and the other gopas, they were arranging a very elaborate religious ceremony. Krishna understood exactly what was happening. But in his own childlike way, at the time, he was only 7 years old. He approached his father, Nanda Maharaj. He said, I see everywhere there are people running here and there in so many ways, preparing for some sort of yajna or sacrifice. Can you tell me, what is it? Who is it for? And why? Krishna said, Nanda Maharaj was hesitating to explain it to him because he's a small child and these yajnas are very technical sometimes, even for adults. Krishna said, why are you hesitating? There should be no secrets among honest people with family members. And I'm your son, so you tell me openly, what are you doing, who are you doing it for, and why? And Nanda Maharaj said, we are a community of cowherd men and women, and we depend on agricultural crops and grass to grow. And all of this is only possible due to rain. Whether it rains or not is beyond the ability of humans to control. It is supervised by the great demigod Indra. And to satisfy Indra, to provide rains, our forefathers for generations and generations and generations have done this Indra Puja every year at this time. Krishna, he spoke a philosophy that he didn't even believe in, and he didn't want any of us to believe in it. But he spoke it just to enchant our hearts for a higher purpose. And one of those higher purposes was to make Indra really angry. This 7-year-old little talkative boy, he said, Father, there's no reason to worship Indra. Because after all, everything is happening, the good results and bad results, according to our karma. If we perform good work, we're going to get good karma. And if we perform bad, we're going to get bad karma. And all the demigods could do is be agents to deliver the karma that we deserve. So we're pious people, we're doing good, therefore, Indra has to send us rains. Rain is coming due to the mode of passion. Creation is passion, maintenance is goodness, and destruction is ignorance. These are the three modes of material nature that prevail over the different elements of the universe. So for the creation of our crops and our grasses and the prosperity of filling the rivers and the lakes, all we have to do is perform our duties with proper intentions Because work is worship. Brahmins, their duty is to perform yagas, to study scriptures, to teach others. Kshatriyas, to maintain law and order, to protect all the citizens. Vaishyas, by agriculture, cow protection, trading and commerce and money lending. And the Shudras by assisting those who are protecting them. We are Vaishyas. We are in a community where we protect cows. So why should we indirectly, uselessly waste our time worshiping this Indra? After all, Indra has to give what he's destined to give us. But the reality is, whatever prosperity we have, it's because we're being blessed by the Brahmins. And because our cows are providing so much milk to us, and the bulls are tilling our fields, and fresh grasses and sweet waters are all being provided by Govardhana Hill. So with all the same paraphernalia that you have assembled here to worship Indra, my dear Father, we should worship the cows, the Brahmins, and Govardhana Hill. And then he gave instructions of Nanda Maharaj how to do it. He said we should take all of this bhoga, all of this food, and everything else there is in Brajbhumi, and all the milk and all the ghee from the cows, and we should make mountains and mountains and mountains of bhoga. Cakes and sweet cakes and kheers and sabjis and chapatis and rice, and we'll cover it with wonderful ghee, and we'll make an anakuta, mountains and lakes of food, and we'll offer it to Govardhana Hill. And we'll also have the Brahmins performing their yagyas, and we'll decorate and feed the cows with the freshest, most tasteful grasses. Nanda Maharaj and all the Brajvasis, their ultimate wish in life was simply to make Krishna happy. If Krishna's happy, everything is success. Athapum birdvijas treshtas varanashrama vibhagashashvanushtatasya dharmasya samsadir haritoshanam. Whatever our occupation, whatever our ashram, whatever our status in society is, the only true success comes when the sincerity of our effort gives pleasure to Krishna. Samsiddhir haritoshanam. It is the perfection. And if we don't please Krishna, shrama eva hi kevalam. It's all a waste of time. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhakta prayachchati. And Krishna says, even if you offer to me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or some water, if it is offered with bhakti, with devotion, I'm pleased to accept it. Understand the nature of Nanda Maharaj and the Brajvasis. They had no hesitation to go against a tradition of the king of the demigods, Indra, if it pleases Krishna. Govinda Das, the great poet, prayed, Bhajahure manasri nanda nandana abhaya charanara vindare. My dear mind, just worship Sri Nanda Nandana. Because by pleasing him, you become fearless. The predominating emotion in the whole material creation is fear. fear of loss, fear of humiliation, fear of not getting what you want, fear of disease and death. Most of the money that's invested directly or slightly indirectly, if we examine its motivation, it's fear. But here we find the simple, pure-hearted residents of Vrindavan. They were fearless because their only desire in life was to please Krishna. Anxiety and fear is only because we have separate desires other than that. Maya tricks us in so many ways, thinking if I get this desire fulfilled, I will find some peace, some security, or some happiness. But actually, every time we fulfill our desires or don't fulfill our desires, every time we strive to fulfill our selfish material desires that are separate from Krishna, we're only implicating and complicating the anxieties and fears of this world. It's so simple. If we have no other aspiration to please Krishna, and in that state of mind, in whatever situation comes, we can become blissfully fearless when we call out His holy name. Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda Mai, and all the Brajvasis unanimously accepted, yes, whatever Krishna wants. That's our goal in life. Krishna knew was about to come. So they prepared these giant mountains and lakes of food, bhoga. And meanwhile, the Brahmins were performing their fire sacrifices and chanting Vedic mantras. And Nanda Maharaj and his people, how they gave happiness to all the cows. For many years, I took care of cows. And sometimes they kick. But it's really purifying when they kick you. But ultimately, cows, they just like to look nice, and they like to feel nice, and they like to be loved. See? And when I'd brush their faces, and I would after I would milk the cows and feed them, I would brush every hair on their body, exactly in the direction that it naturally went. Yes, with a special cow brush. And when those cows would come out of the goshala, they would be smiling and dancing because they just looked so nice. And it's not just that they look nice, it's the time, the attention, and the affection that you give them to make them look nice. Srila Prabhupada taught us that cow protection in the spirit of Vrindavan, it's not just about not killing them. It's about giving them extreme happiness through feeling that they're loved and they're cared for. So they were feeding the cows the freshest grasses. And then they were putting gold-plated ornaments with jewels on their horns and silver-plated jeweled ornaments on their hooves. And they had hand-embroidered silk that they were putting around their bodies. And there were 900,000 cows, just Nanda Maharajas. Then there were so many others. In this way, it was a beautiful festival, and the cows were just so happy, and the Brahmins were so happy. Everyone was giving blessings. And then, under Krishna's direction, they offered these massive mountains and lakes of Bhoga to Govardhan. The mountain. At that time, Krishna personally manifested himself in a gigantic form on top of Govardhan Hill. It was extraordinary. How I wish we could all have the eyes to see this. With this Govardhan Hill 5,000 years ago was a gigantic mountain. And equal in size, standing on top of the mountain of Govardhan, was Krishna in the form of Govardhan. And when all the Brajvasis saw this, they were struck with wonder. And then that beautiful form of the Lord on top of Govardhan Hill, as Govardhan Hill spoke, "I am Govardhan, and I have come to receive all of your offerings." Krishna and Balaram bowed down. Krishna bowed down to himself in his little form of a cowherd boy. And all the Brajvasis bowed down to Krishna, who manifested the eternal truth that he is non-different than Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill is his transcendental body. And Srila Prabhupada tells us that since that time, when someone has the blessings of their guru and they're very, very, well-equipped devotees, they can worship a single stone of Govardhan Hill, and it's non-different than worshiping the deity of Krishna, because he is Krishna. We spoke the other day of Lord Chaitanya. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Vrindavan, when he was doing his Govardhan parikrama, the first stone of Govardhan that he saw, in the mood of Srimati Radharani, he embraced that stone and wept incessant tears. Sri Radha was united personally, intimately, again with Krishna in the form of Sri Giriraj. And in Puri, for 3 years, he worshipped a small little Govardhan Shila, about this big. And that Govardhan Shila, he knew, he felt that this is the body of Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha. And that Shila was constantly moistened by the tears of Lord Chaitanya's love. Yes, on that day, Lord Krishna revealed himself as Govardhan Hill. And then he had inconceivable potencies to accept everyone's offerings. There was offerings everywhere, as far as Nandagaon. He was just reaching all at once. He had long arms, short arms, and all of a sudden he just ate everything. There was nothing left, because it was all offered with devotion. This is Krishna's inconceivable power to reciprocate with the love of his devotees. Hence there was nothing left. And there's a village in the Govardhan Parikrama. It is named Aniyor, because after Lord Giriraj ate everything, what hundreds and thousands of humans can't eat, he ate in a moment. Aniyor, give me more. But please know, when he was saying Aniyor, it was a mountain that was thunderously speaking. But there was nothing left in the whole of Brajbhumi. It is said that Krishna had a single tulsi leaf offered with love. And Giriraj said, I am satisfied. And then, just to reciprocate with his devotees' love, within an instant, all those massive mountains and lakes and ponds and creeks of prasad manifested again. And under Krishna's instruction, they fed the Brahmins, they fed the Kshatriyas, they fed the cowherd men and women, they fed the dogs and the cats, they fed everybody. There was such an incredible feast that no one was left out. And then, totally satisfied by this incredible experience, Krishna led them on the parikrama of Govardhan Hill, where the cows and the calves and the gopas and the gopis and the brahmins, they all were doing Giriraj parikrama. And what a blissful parikrama that was. Krishna was sometimes playing his flute. Devotees, Brahmins were chanting mantras, the gopas were dancing and laughing, there was people playing instruments, there was incredible kirtans of Krishna's holy names. Everyone was just so happy. Everyone's full consciousness was totally immersed in Krishna, remembering Krishna's beauty, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's love, Krishna's names. This was the festival of all festivals, because when you water the root of the tree, every part of the tree is nourished. When Krishna is satisfied, all of his devotees feel the highest happiness. So many years they did this Indra Puja, and it was always boring. We've been through these long pujas together before, but this Govardhan Puja, incredible! Can you imagine the happiness of seeing Krishna manifested in this gigantic form and eating all of these mountains of prasad? And then Krishna was just so happy with it all. Everyone was dancing and singing as they did the parikrama of Govardhan Hill. And then they all went back to their homes. So happy. Everyone was happy. Except Indra. He was furious. He felt totally insulted and humiliated in front of his wife, in front of his servants, in front of all of the other demigods. It was unbearable to him. What was rightfully his in his eyes was being offered to a hill. He called for the Samvartaka clouds. These are the clouds that are especially called for universal destruction. These Samvartaka clouds have the power, when they shower rain on earth during the time of a deluge, that there's no more land. The entire earth planet becomes a deep ocean. Indra called for these clouds, and he spoke. He was so angry. He was so intoxicated by wrath. He said, I want you to go, and with all the powers you destroy planets, I want you to destroy this village of Vrindavan. Because the Brajvasis, because they have so much prosperity due to cows and good agricultural crops, they have become proud. And in the vanity of their arrogance, they are intoxicated, and they have offended me, being misguided by this insignificant, talkative little child, Krishna. This is very revealing. The world is a mirror of our own consciousness. One of the main purposes of Krishna doing all this was to deflate Indra's pride. But Indra is thinking that Krishna's proud. Indra's thinking that the Brajvasis are intoxicated with false pride. If you're envious, you see envy in others. If you're crooked, you see crookedness in others. If you're proud, you see pride in others. This was Indra. He's telling the Samvartaka clouds that I am going to once and for all cure the residents of Vrindavan of their intoxicated false ego by destroying them. But what was actually happening is Krishna was in the process of destroying his intoxicating false ego. So he said, go, destroy everything, and I will be right behind you on my Airavata elephant with all of my thunderbolts, and I will bring with me the most powerful of the wind gods to create hurricanes and tornadoes and cyclones. The clouds obeyed their master. And here in Vrindavan, suddenly, these massive, dark clouds filled the sky. They were forming thicker and thicker and thicker. These clouds were so dense and so dark that it made everything absolutely pitch dark, except because Krishna, from his body, Brahma Samhita tells us, the Brahma Jyoti is manifesting. Everybody could see perfectly. It was dark up there, but everybody could see because Krishna was manifesting his light, but they didn't really understand what was happening. And as the clouds were forming, we have never seen clouds like this. When you see them, you're about to die. Unless you're a Brajvasi. Thunder, lightning, then torrents of rains. Our scripture tells us it wasn't drops of rain. The rain was coming down with such force It was like hundreds and thousands of rivers falling from the sky simultaneously. The Srimad Bhagavatam explains it was like columns, like pillars of rains falling. One of our acharyas explains another analogy. It was like a gigantic, ancient banyan tree with all of its trunks coming down. It was endless. It became freezing cold, and the winds were unbearable. There were cows who were trying to protect their little baby calves, and that loose skin that is under their neck. They were putting that over their little babies' bodies like a little umbrella, and somehow or other wrapping around their calves to protect their calves from the winds and the rains and the cold. And meanwhile, the cows were trembling and shivering, and their hairs were standing on end, and tears were falling from their eyes as they were mooing in pain. And the bulls were looking up, their eyes red with anger, as the rain was falling on their horns and falling on the humps on their backs. They were growling. And the Brajvasis, they all came running to Krishna, because after all, he was their own child or friend or lover. But when there was a difficult situation, they didn't see him as God, but they understood there's no other shelter than him. Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhaga. The Brajvasis prayed, "Oh Krishna, don't you see the intense, pitiable suffering of your beloved cows? And look at us. We're freezing. This rain, we can't see what is a level part of the ground anymore. Everything is becoming like an ocean." Krishna smiled. He understood. Indra is very angry. And then he said to his family members of Vrindavan, he said, "Do not be afraid." And then, according to our acharyas, by Krishna's Yogamaya potency, temporarily, for just a flash of a minute or so, where Krishna ran from his home to Govardhana Hill, no rain would fall. That way, when he got to Govardhana Hill, he was completely dry. And then, to please his devotees and to crush the pride of Indra, 7-year-old little Gopal, he lifted Govardhana Hill as effortlessly as a small child lifts a mushroom. We don't eat mushrooms, but we lift mushrooms. So he lifted Govardhana Hill with his left hand, and with his left hand just the tip of his little finger. And then he called out to all the Brajvasis, "Just see, because you all gave so much happiness to Govardhan by worshiping him with so much love and devotion and giving him so much bhoga and so much nice love, that now Govardhan has become like an umbrella to protect us from the rains. Please bring whatever valuables, your cows, And let us enjoy under Govardhana Hill. And everyone brought whatever was dearest to their heart. And they all assembled under Giriraj. Incredibly, because Giriraj is none different than Krishna. We had already heard the story yesterday of how in Krishna's tiny little mouth, he could contain the entire universe with mountains and oceans and all living entities. So even though there were so many cows and so many Brajvasis, the Harivamsa explains that because Govardhana is not different than Krishna, the entire universe could have been safe from rains under the umbrella of Govardhana Hill. Everyone gathered. And as Krishna lifted it, the Govardhana Hill, it made such a tumultuous sound. Can you imagine a mountain being uprooted from the ground? And by Krishna's own will, his Icha Shakti, the power of his own desire, there was some dirt and rocks falling from Govardhana to make a little boundary wall. And also, whatever water fell off the mountain, it dried up before it reached the ground, so no water could get under the hill. So it was just a beautiful arrangement. And all the gopas, and all the gopis, and all the cows, in all four directions, they surrounded Giridhari, the lifter of Govardhana Hill. Everyone, the calves, the cows, the buffaloes, the goats, the peacocks, the gopis, the gopas, the brahmins, everyone was thinking, not only thinking, they were experiencing that Krishna is only looking at me. They were in a full circle around Gopal, but yet Krishna was exchanging the deepest, most intimate pastimes of love with all of them through his glance. Each of the residents of Vrindavan were reciprocating with Krishna according to their particular relationships. The Brahmins were blessing him. The Gopas, they were joking with him and laughing with him and making all kinds of funny sounds to make him happy, and Krishna was doing the same for them. And the gopis, a little distance away, through the love of their glance, they were offering Krishna the intimacy of the love of their hearts. And through his glance, he was entering into their hearts, and deep in the very core of their hearts, they were satisfying all of their innermost desires to embrace Krishna and feel Krishna's embrace. And this was all happening through their eyes.